Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Elijah Boykin. We'll be discussing his fantastic book, The United States of Africa, available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or if you guys want to get everything that Elijah has to offer, listen, do yourself a favor. Go directly to his personal website, Boykinverse.com. There, not only will you be able to find plenty of videos and interviews that Elijah has done, you'll also be able to find him reading some of his poetry. And guys, listen, we're going to be discussing the United States of Africa today, but Elijah has surely put in work. He has 11 books in totality as of this moment. Now, of course, there may be more to come on the horizon, but as of right now, there's 11 books in totality. You have to go to Boykinverse.com and pick them up. Of course, again, as I stated, they're available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other book retailers. But if you want to get the full experience, go to Boykinverse.com. And I will say, Elijah was brought to People of Distinction today by some of the best movers in the business, Parchment Global Publishing. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, move it to Parchment. You can find them at parchmentglobalpublishing.com. And guys, listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Elijah here on the line because, his book that we're going to be discussing, The United States of Africa, listen, right off the bat, it has a catchy title, right? So it instantly sucks you in, it grabs your attention. But what I love so much about it is really the underlying theme. Even if you find that you can't relate to the specific things that Elijah is saying in his book, the underlying message is really about creating your own thoughts, really going against the grain, making sure that your thinking and your thought process is based upon you. And I'm so glad that we have Elijah here on the line because, listen, he's the expert. He's written the book. He's going to be able to articulate all the nuances in his book much better than I ever could. So without further ado, we have him here on the line. Elijah, first and foremost, thank you so much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction. How are you?
I'm doing fine. It's really my pleasure to tell the truth. Your intro made me feel like I'm on a flying carpet, so I appreciate that.
There you go. That is the first time that an author has said that I've made them feel like they're on a magic carpet. That's pretty high praise there. I appreciate it, Elijah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now, Elijah, listen, like I said, man, it's an honor for you to be on here with us. We're very much looking forward to this. Now, without further ado, let's jump right in. Elijah, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be an author.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today, tell the truth. We used to tell stories, or at least I told stories in music class.
Mm-hmm.
We did all sorts of things in music class. We do kickboxing. And guys would walk in from, the lavatory with their fly open and stuff like that, when the teacher was called to the office and whatnot. But then I started to ask myself, but why did you really start writing? And I came up with the answer is the fact that the main attraction of telling stories and writing is that you get to be the god of your own universe, Mm-hmm. And once you got a taste of that, it's like everything else it just goes overboard. You don't want to do anything else, but somehow to cultivate that feeling or re-evoke that feeling of just being the god of your own universe by telling a story that's of your own invention.
Wonderfully put. Wonderfully put. Now, Elijah, tell me about the events that led you to write the book.
Oh, well, it had been like percolating in my mind for a while. You remember Albert Einstein used to talk about his thought experiments,
mm-hmm.
How he came up with the theory for general relativity by imagining himself riding on a light beam, And it occurred to me that he's not the only person that has thought experiments. We all have our thought experiments. They're called dreams, We dream of a better life, what it would be if, I didn't have to work this 9-to-5 job, or what would it be like if I was married to a supermodel? That's a thought experiment, And the thought experiment that I had was that here in America, blacks were always touting themselves as being the first, to break into the major leagues,
Mm-hmm.
or they were the first senator or the first congressman. But it was always breaking into the Western system of things, that they were the first, But I thought to myself, well, God, what would it be like if we had our own system of things, and the other groups had to be the first to break in and whatnot. I've always had a mischievous imagination that way, what it would be like if it was the reverse of what it is, and that led to just the concept of the United States of Africa. There was a time when Ebony Magazine put out a magazine about the various countries of Africa and their assets, their advantages, their disadvantages, the turmoils that they were going through, revolutions and juntas and coups and things of that nature, And I thought this would be a good basis. But it still made me wonder, because when you compared the potentials of Africa with the potentials of North America, there just didn't seem to be that much difference between the two continents, the two climes, the two peoples, So it begged the question was, why was there such a high development socially, politically, and economically here in the United States, and less so in the United States of Africa? And I have to thank the people at Wikipedia for helping me find the raw data I need to just speculate about these matters, because it really was a help to be able to listen to the national anthem of various countries in Africa, and also look at what their national resources were and the peoples who were habitating in those various environments and what the climate was like. So it was a big help just being able to refer to Wikipedia.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Elijah, let's not wait any longer. The United States of Africa. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Well, it's a book about various countries in Africa, and then there's one poem called Roll Call, where Father Africa calls people together from the past and the future of Africa itself, and they hold like a continental congress. And first, he makes sure that everybody is present, and there's even people up in the gallery like Carl Sagan and Arthur C. Clarke and Alex Haley, But the whole thing is that it's begun in earnest in this poem. The fact that all the countries and all the representatives of the various countries of Africa are meeting to finally organize the continent into a centralized whole that has a centrally organized society, economy, political system, and you get to hear, from various heroes of past, present, and future, just answer up that they're present and ready to deliberate upon the matter of the United States of Africa. And that's one particular poem. But for each country, there is a poem that I've composed, which is based on the knowledge I have, or the knowledge I was able to acquire about that particular country, its national anthem, its historical figures, its climate, the peoples that are there, whether they're Bantu or Pygmy or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And it was just a very interesting thing. And I learned a lot, and that's why I like this book. It has a special place in my heart and mind, because I wasn't just speaking from my own thoughts and feelings and opinions. I was speaking from data and facts that I had learned that I hadn't known anything about. I learned about patriots, not of America, but patriots of Africa, people who were revered by the African people because they had, promoted a particular type of freedom for the people or the land in that particular area. So it was quite an eye-opener for me, and quite therapeutic, because, as I said, you kind of see things from an African mindset in a thoroughly comprehensive way. But it's just a primer. I could revisit those countries again, and get even more out of it, and that's what I liked about it. It's like I opened a door. I didn't walk all the way through or make a tour through the entire museum, let's say, or school of Africa, but I at least made that first step, and that dipped my toe in the waters, let's say.
Elijah, this is so impressive, okay? In a book of this magnitude, when we know, listen, the continent of Africa is massive, and there are so many individual countries. And the fact that you took it upon yourself to write a poem with each country in mind is so impressive, and really such an illumination into every one of those countries. And listen, being a black man myself, I mean, this is a book that is something that I think is so profound. It's all about representation. That representation is so important. And the fact that you had the wherewithal to comprise that information, put it together, and put it out for the public to be able to partake in, the education, I'm sure, is going to be profound. So thank you so much for doing that. Now, Elijah, as we step away from this book, as I started off this interview by saying, you have 11 books in totality, right? So you've definitely fully immersed yourself in this creative journey of being an author and putting this out. I have to ask, I mean, have you gotten any other books in the works?
Yeah, there's a book on Mars that's coming up soon, and I mentioned that on the back cover of United States of Africa, and it's going to be called Mariner Valley Authority. I'm about a third of the way through that. But there was a fellow, American philosopher, he suggested an interface between science, technology, and civilization, but also the humanities, and I want to explore that concept in Mariner Valley Authority. And the title for Mariner Valley Authority, of course, comes from the Tennessee Valley Authority, so I'm just speaking about the different works that can occur in lower orbit and in higher orbit above Mars and on the planet itself, that might provide spin-offs for advantages and benefits to Western civilization here on Earth. But it won't be long before I'm finished with that, and then that'll be my fifth poetry book. I also have another book coming out. It'll be a book of movie reviews. It'll be the second volume of Toward a New Cinema, and I'll just be speaking about my reflections on various movies that I've seen, past, present, and hopefully some that, are just currently out. And there'll be a lot of anecdotal information about that, how it affected me and where I was at the time and whether I was a youth or a young teenager or someone in their 20s or the age I am now. And just some different reflections I have about that. And the interesting thing about, I find, reviewing film is you can do construction, deconstruction, and reconstruction without worrying about losing your finger on the bandsaw or anything like that, as you would in a carpentry class, And I like constructing and deconstructing and reconstructing ideas, and it's easily done when you're looking and viewing films. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Elijah, sticking with this idea of thought process, right, and changing the way we think, I'd love to know a little bit more about the way you think, and really, what do you hope and expect for the future of literature here in America and the world?
Well, there's a chapter I read in a book called Science of Survival, actually, by L. Ron Hubbard, and he talked about level of mind alert. And it occurred to me that he was actually talking about the same thing Martin Luther King was talking about with his nonviolent movement for civil rights. I'm hoping that the literature of the future will suggest a transcendence out of undue emphasis on, let's say, violence and sex or racism and injustice. It'll demonstrate, rather than just speak about, how you can transcend these kind of limiting mindsets so that people can think in a more inventive way. Because America primarily is a society of inventors, It's a society that was founded on three things, actually: the Industrial Revolution, slavery, but also the Age of Enlightenment. Because the founding fathers, they were coming out of the Age of Enlightenment, and even though they didn't completely embody the ideals of the Age of Enlightenment, many of them being slaveholders themselves, people like Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Ben Franklin, they could at least conceptualize and postulate that it was possible for there to be a society where all men respected the rights of all men and observed that all men were created equal, at least as far as opportunities are concerned, And then so that's what I'm hoping for, is that people won't be alerted to violence or suffering or pain as much as they're alerted to the immense treasures that are possible simply by shifting viewpoints and understanding, new facts, new data, new concepts, and new ideas. That's what I'm hoping. And it's more possible today than it was before because of the computer revolution.
Absolutely.
We have access to information all over the world, even more so than Jefferson or Washington or Franklin had during their age of enlightenment. So a high-tech age of enlightenment is really possible. And I'm hoping people will take advantage of the data that's available so they can teach themselves anything, and be polymaths the way that some of the founding fathers were. And by that I mean masters of several different disciplines rather than one. Master 3 or 4 languages instead of just speaking English or French or Spanish. That's what I'm looking forward to, is the creation of the international man rather than the ethnic man.
Fantastic. Now sticking with this, philosophical thought process that you are starting to, really point towards and you're discussing, and what do you expect will be the state of civilization in the near and far future?
Well, I'm thinking that much of the drudgery will be taken away by machines. I don't think people will work. They won't do the hard elbow grease and grunt work that has typified societies and nations and civilizations in the past. I think people will be longer lived. A bachelor's degree will probably be equal to a high school diploma, and people will be able to get various types of degrees in various types of subjects. There'll be more time to study and research and to acquire new skills. Instead of a person having a career for an entire lifetime and retiring at 65, they may have 2 or 3 careers. Their career life will go in phases. They may have a career between, let's say, 20 to 45, have a new career in a whole nother area, and do that from 45 to 65, and then from 65 to 85, having even another career, And I expect the lifespan to be somewhat longer than it is now. It'll probably be in 100 years it'll be between 95 and 120. And I think 95 will probably be what 65 is today because of advances in medical science, improved nutrition, and whatnot. So I'm hoping the state of civilization will be that. And people will have just more free time, and then they'll be able to do these various studies that I talked to, and there'll be less consideration about the individual and more consideration about the community, both on a local level and on a world level. I'm looking forward to that. It won't be utopia. I think there'll be a new set of problems that people will have to grapple with, especially dealing with climate change and controlling the elements. But once we get past all of this racial sectarianism and whatnot, I think we'll be ready for that task, just confronting how we might manipulate the elements so that we can have the type of climate where we want wherever we are on this planet Earth. Yeah.
Elijah, this is deep stuff, man. I can just listen to you go on and on. This is fantastic. I had to catch myself a moment there because I remembered, oh, wait, I'm doing an interview. I'm not just listening to this man speak. So thank you for that because, again, the enlightenment is wonderful that you're speaking of, how deep down the rabbit hole you're going. And a lot of these ideas that you're bringing up seem revolutionary. But at the end of the day, of course, yeah, medicine is going to advance and people's lifetimes are going to alter. And I completely agree. I don't think it's going to be a euphoric experience. It's not going to be a utopia. It'll come with its own consequences, its own new challenges. But we are going to grow and develop as a society. And everything that you're saying and you're speaking to, I think is so profound. I love it. Sticking with that because I want to continue to go a little further down this rabbit hole. All right. I don't want to give up just yet. Can you talk to me a little bit about paradox in universe? Yeah.
We had a novel that we had to review in a class called Introduction to the Novel with Miss Gomez. She was a lady that came from the Philippines, and she was an existentialist. And talking to her, I realized that I was a Neoplatonist, so even before I really researched what that was all about. But we studied Catch-22, and Catch-22 was a novel written by Joseph Heller, and was all about how, well, it was about Newton's second law, I believe. That's his second law, that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, okay? But the whole point, and Lao Tzu got into that too, you know, with yin yang and the idea that those who speak do not know and those who know do not speak. But there's various paradoxes in life. Probably one of the most conspicuous is there was a fellow who was born in Bethlehem who later lived in Nazareth. He went around healing people, fixing up the lame, making the blind see. And he did various other types of miracles. At a party, he was able to feed the people with just a few fish and loaves. I don't know how he worked that out, you know. But the rewards he got for that seemed to be the exact opposite of what the normal human being would expect. Most people, when they do a miracle, even slightly comparable to what this fella did, they would expect to get their own infomercial, write a book, and have it be a bestseller. But that's not what happened to this fella at all, you know. Right, it was kind of paradoxical. And people look at it and they say, well, that's just the way it is. But, you know, very few people actually ask, but why is that way? Why is it that way, you know? Why is it that, you know, you can fawn over and worship a girl, you know, and another guy can come along and give her carping criticisms, and she's just deeply in love with him, you know? It's paradoxical, you know? And this book, Joseph Heller, was about all that, you know, the paradox of life here on planet Earth. And as I kind of mentioned recently, there was another book that came along as well, and it was a book that I read. It was called Scientology 8008. And in this book, the guy suggested that the physical universe wasn't the only game in town. There were other universes as well, you know, and it was possible to reduce the effect that the physical universe had on you and increase your ability to be cause over a universe of your own making. And that goes all the way back to why I first felt I could become a writer, and I was really enamored at the whole process of writing. The first thing that I experienced when I started writing was this feeling of omnipotence, you know, that if Muhammad Ali had walked into the room while I was writing some of my pages, I felt so high that, yeah, you know, if we went 10 rounds, I'd be the winner, you know. It was that feeling of omnipotence. I'm the god of my own universe, you know. And that's a wonderful feeling to have. Naturally, it should be tempered with some type of sense of reality and responsibility, but it's a wonderful feeling. But you tend, as you go through life and receive the shocks and setbacks that the physical universe can bring to you, that feeling of I can create my own universe tends to diminish, you know. And it can get to the point where you think, yeah, no, the universe has the upper hand, the physical universe, that is, and my universe is really nothing, when actually you should feel the other way around. And the most successful people in life feel that way. No, I'm cause over this universe because I can create one of my own, or I can create into this universe my own universe in such a way that I can be cause and make the physical universe an effect of my creation, you know? So that's the way that I see universe and paradox, you know. The universe doesn't have to be a paradox. It doesn't have to be for everything you do. It reverses on you. You can actually step out of that physical universe bag and create a whole new bag of your own.
Fantastic. Last philosophical question, I swear. You know, why would you say that we're entering the age of reinvention?
Because we have knowledge at our disposal at this particular time, and it's not the province of the super rich or the educated elite. Anybody can go on the internet and get a PDF or see a YouTube on how to do anything, whether it's just cooking gluten-free meals or learning how to put together a table as a carpenter would, or learning how to switch motors out of two cars. There's all sorts of data that we have at our fingertips. It's an unprecedented a time to be alive. The computer revolution, which was mostly a painless and bloodless revolution, and to a large degree, a benign revolution that didn't involve much oppression or exploitation, except perhaps in a monetary sense in some quarters, has brought this about. If people address their access to information in a really thoughtful way as to, how can I improve myself? How can I acquire new abilities? How can I learn what I need to address the issues of food, clothing, shelter, transportation, and information in ways that are compatible to my psychological disposition, my lifestyle, my cultural heritage, and whatnot? We can actually, become the inventors of our own reality and our own destiny in ways that, couldn't be dreamed of in the founding fathers' time even. So that's what I mean when I talk about this is the age of reinvention. There was a fellow, he came back from a war, as a matter of fact. I saw a little video on him, and he could barely walk. Yet he looked at videos on yoga and acupuncture and whatnot, and he actually did a video of him being in a wheelchair, him being on crutches, him trying to do these various hatha yoga postures, and he'd fall down several times. Then finally he got to where he could hold, a pose. Then he tried another one. He did another one. And this guy could barely walk. And then when he had done these postures, these hatha yoga postures for about 2 or 3 years, he did a video where not only could he walk, and I think he had his crutches at the time, and he threw his crutches to the side, and he sprinted right towards the camera and whatnot. And this was a total change. Wow. He had reinvented himself from being a person who was in a wheelchair to a person who could do a full sprint towards the camera. I thought, that's incredible. And he did it from what he learned and the access he had to information that wouldn't have been available, maybe 200-300 years ago. Yeah.
There you have it. There you have it. Elijah, listen, as we tie up this wonderful interview, the only other question that I have to ask is, how can people find out more about your books or your blog?
Well, I would go to www.boykinverse.com, which show you all the books, okay? Mm-hmm. But the books that you can check out that are reasonably priced, which I think are good books, are Alfonso Gento, which is reasonably priced. Global Summit House has an excellent version of that, and that's represented on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Also, Global Summit House has it. I'd get that book because that's one book that it's a coming-of-age story. And this guy, he talks to these 3 different people. It's sort of autobiographical. I didn't realize it until I thought about it for a while. But this guy, he's considering what type of man he's going to be. And he has these 3 friends, and they're all good at a certain aspect of manhood. One is a boxer. He can protect himself. He can protect others. One is a mechanic. He can fix anything. Another is a manager of his own black-owned company, and he can manage people and personnel, And those are 3 different aspects of manhood that any man growing up has to confront, and hopefully he'll be part of a community where if he has, any lack in one area, his friends can make up for that, But it's about that. Solomon Grant's Returns to Earth and Solomon Grant's Tales of the Ghetto is just a look at, this guy's returning to Earth, but it covers it in various different themes, reincarnation, what it's like to come back from the dead, what it's like to come back when you've resigned from the human race, so to speak. You're a hobo or a bum, that type of thing. But it's an interesting book. And as I say, it shows 2 sides of life, both the comic side and the tragic side. And that's put out by Ex Libris, but it's reasonably priced, and that's a good book. And you get it on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and I would check that out for sure. I like the United States of Africa. As I say, it's to me, it put my mindset in virgin fields and in virgin waters, where I could really think up new ideas from a totally different viewpoint and perspective. And I would recommend that as well. The book of movie reviews as well. I think you might get some insights, or at least see it from my viewpoint, which might not be your viewpoint, and say, oh, I never looked at it that way. And that's all I was intending, to get with that particular book. But, that's what I would do. I go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Global Summit House, Author Reputation Press, and Ex Libris, and I would check those books out. And of course, go to my Facebook page and tell me you read one of the books or you read a section of it. Tell me what you think of it. You don't have to laud it. You can criticize it, and we can have a discussion about it. Yep.
Fantastic. Guys, listen, what more can be said? You know what you got to do. He just listed all of the websites again. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, but go directly to his website, Boykinverse.com, to get everything that Elijah has to offer, starting with the United States of Africa. Elijah, this has been such an honor. Thank you very much for, the education, the philosophical experience that you've been able to relay. Truly, truly appreciated having you on as a guest today with us on People of Distinction.
Well, I appreciate that. We can have a lot of fun with adventures and learning. I've got a little poem here. I don't know if you got time, but,
yes, please.
It's from the United States of Africa. If I can recite it to you, we could end off the interview on that if you'd like to.
Yes, please. Absolutely.
Okay, well, this is a poem from the United States of Africa. This is African Regenerous. We pride ourselves on how well we play the games of white men while praying fervently to play a game of our own invention that will make us champions of the world. We hit the books with baby powder, producing a fine white mist of atmosphere that will coat everything according to the history of these affairs, gluing back the page we took from their histories. We lacquer our being with images of design alien to our nature, as we strive to make our very protons take on and conform to the properties of electrons, dancing in the magnetic flux of the Western way. We stand in line holding our tickets and waiting to be summoned next in order that our forms might be approved, sparing us the trials of dismemberment and immolation slated for the unreconstructed outcasts. We apply ourselves assiduously to the study of everything except ourselves and rehearse without cease to be called up and appointed to the role of this season's buffoon for the night in the palace of the big bucks. We are strangers to our own success and unwitting abettors to the decay of civilization as we know it, while glimmers of insight flash behind our closed eyes and beckon us to be what we once knew we could be. We recoil from the brightness of the light, unused to it, as we have already adjusted our eyes to these dim quarters and find comfort and uncertain solace within the cocoon and beneath the dissolving mantle, releasing African regenesis. Elijah Boykin, Jr., June 11th, 2017.
Perfect way to end the interview, man. Thank you very much for sharing, Elijah. I truly appreciate it. Once again, thank you so much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
Well, thank you. It was my very great pleasure, to tell the truth.